Hey everybody, Mr. Regan here, and we've done a lot up to now to really begin thinking about where our fossils are going to be placed in our museum. We've looked at a few different examples that our museum director has given us as to where they could possibly go. But only when we begin to compare bone structures of our extinct fossils with the bone structures of other living organisms are we truly going to be able to place them in our museum. So, to do this, we're going to be practicing using these paleontology skills where we make strong observations and compare different body structures, more specifically bone structures. So, what we're going to be looking to explain here in this video is how we're going to be making those strong observations and how we're going to be completing the next set of tasks. So, obviously, make sure we fill in our survey as we break this down, and let's take a look at how we're going to practice these skills so we can figure out what's going on with our mystery fossil. So today we're going to be looking at these two unique organisms from our sorting cards. I'm not going to try to pronounce their names, so I'm going to butcher them. But the fish-like and camel-like creature are going to be our focus. We're going to be making observations today like paleontologists to compare these two extinct organisms, just like our mystery fossil is extinct. And we're going to be making strong observations about their body structures for these two species so that it'll help us decide where they can go, and we're going to be looking at this idea of how to make those strong observations. So let's take a look. When it comes to evaluating the evidence based on the observations we see with our different organisms, the more careful and precise our observations are, they can provide us with stronger evidence. So any observations we make, the more precise and careful they are, the stronger the evidence as to what we're seeing, what organisms are comparing and grouping and similar to others, and that sort of thing. So, as paleontologists, we need to obviously compare organisms by making careful and precise observations. And we're going to practice that by looking at these two organisms and looking at what strong observations and weak observations look like. So, let's take a look at comparing our two organisms here. So, we have our two organisms and we have an observation that's made by someone. And the observation says it has legs. And this observation is about one of our two organisms here. So if we were to look at this observation and ask ourselves, which organism is this observation number one about? It'd be really hard to make that decision. We see that they all have legs, and we see that they all have the same number of legs. So this is not a very precise observation. Is it correct? Of course, but is it precise? No. Is it a careful observation? It's not careful because it's not giving us enough information as to which is which, what we're looking at, what we're talking about. It's vague and unspecific. So do we have a clear idea of who this observation is about? The answer is obviously no. Versus another observation that's made between our two organisms that says it has four legs. Each leg has at least two bones in them. Compared to the soccer ball, the legs seem to be about the same length as 6 to 8 soccer balls on top of one another. So we're looking at this and we see that it has four legs. Obviously, by itself, that information is not enough. Each leg has at least two bones in it. Well, we see when we look at this structure here, it has one, two bones at least. Hard to see here, but it actually has a few bone structures here as well. I believe it has two. But when compared to the soccer ball, the legs seems to be about the same length as 6 to 8 of them. So if we have a little soccer ball here and we stack 6 to 8 of them on top of one another, it's clear which one it is. So which organism is observation 2 about? Well, if you said this guy right here, Titan Otilopus, that's my best guess, then you're probably right. The evidence here is clear. It's precise about what the bone structures are. It's precise about the size. It's precise about how many. And it gives us a comparison to what we're looking at. So if we're looking at what text evidence matches with the empirical evidence, the text evidence here that really points it out is that 6 to 8 soccer balls. That's the text evidence that matches with the empirical evidence or that observational evidence. Here we go. We have one soccer ball. If I were to stack 6 to 8, now we would have closer to this length here. So when we make our observations, we use this paleontologist observation guide to help us now and through all of our units as we figure out what's going on with our mystery fossil. So let's take a look at these. We need to carefully pay attention to bone structure and body structure whenever we're looking at our observations. We need to observe the size, whether it's the thickness or the length of the bones. We need to observe the position where they are. Are they at the front or the head of the organism versus the back? And we need to observe the same fossil evidence several times to make sure we are not missing anything, because some might be small, some might be big. Counting the number of bones is important as well, and using these observations of fossil evidence will help us make careful comparisons with living and extinct organisms. So we're going to take this guide and what we just practiced with our strong observations, and we're going to do that with these two organisms now. Okay? Our fish and our camel-like organism. And the next set of tasks, you're going to have two very important questions. What is one body structure that is very similar between these two organisms? And I want you to explain how you know that. And what is a body structure that both these organisms have but are very different? Same idea. I want you to compare and explain. Use our observation guide. Talk about their size, talk about position, talk about thickness, talk about the number of bones. Make sure we're making several observations to be clear, detailed, and precise. And that's how we'll go from obviously completing our survey to answering our questions using the diagram with our two organisms. So that's how we make strong observations with our body structures and how to complete the next task. Reach out if you need help. Otherwise, good luck.